Awesome. Well, welcome to another edition of the Open for Business podcast. Today I have my good friend Chris Thompson from the Whitewater Brewery. Many people in the Valley know Chris as Hightower. And so Chris is here today. We're getting ready for the Christmas season. This will be the last podcast we record before Christmas. So Chris has kindly worn his Christmas shirt.
Yeah. It's the most wonderful time for a beer.
Yeah. So Chris, man, thanks for coming in.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having
And so as I mentioned to you, this podcast is about promoting entrepreneur lifestyle and how you got into it. So I kind of want to ask, how did you get into being an entrepreneur? And maybe we'll go back a step into like how, you moving to Canada and your whole story. So tell me your story.
For sure. I think my first entrepreneurial adventure was potentially selling video games out of my backpack in high school.
Oh, yeah?
But fast forwarding, I moved to Canada when I was 18 with 3 other friends. Just wanted to go skiing, and that was the main objective. We were going to university the next year, convinced our parents to let us go skiing. So we moved to Banff, worked as anything from lifties to ski instructors in the cafeteria, that sort of thing. And people I met there became good friends and worked in the Ottawa Valley on the river as raft guides for wilderness tours. So convinced me that that was a good idea to do before I went back to university in the fall.
Yeah.
And did that for my first summer, loved it. Came back every summer since through university. But I was going back to university and studying international business, and I minored in entrepreneurship and small business.
So it's in you. Not only is it in you, but it's in your training.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we did everything from basic accounting through to macro and microeconomics, but more small business focused elements as well. So, we had to write our own business plan and pitch it to real investors, and the winner actually won, £100,000 or something like that.
Cool. What was your business plan? What did you write?
Healthy fast food.
Yeah.
Yeah. So essentially something to compete with the McDonald's of the world, but something that's healthy and easily accessible.
Do you not feel that if they had a drive-through fast food, it would be a good business?
Yeah.
Like, you guys think like drive-through, convenience, right?
Yeah.
Cool.
You mean on the healthy side?
On the healthy side, a healthy.
No, absolutely.
We have all these healthy.
I was going to say there is.
No, I understand there's a drive-through everything, but think like extremely healthy food, but in a drive-through version.
No, exactly. It's all about convenience, right? Yeah. And you go to McDonald's or something because it's so easy. Mm-hmm. But if
they try to make it easy, or healthy, but it's not. But I always felt, and I guess it's the cost of goods. Maybe there's a reason why that is, and I have no idea. But we'll have to look into that.
It's more widely available in Europe.
Yeah,
healthy fast food. Yeah. But so finished university. Knew I wanted to start my own business. Just loved all those elements of the degree, but had no idea what. The healthy fast food was a potential thing. Regardless, loved whitewater rafting, loved kayaking, so came back for another summer and wanted to do another winter skiing. And it was that year I was on, we did a 21-day or 19-day trip through the Grand Canyon.
Okay.
So roughly 400 miles of rafting and kayaking.
Cool.
And not much to do in the Grand Canyon after dark. Sun goes down. Too dangerous to go exploring, so you just sit around a campfire and drink beers. And I think we took something crazy, like 300 cases of beer or something on these rafts. We only had 3 rafts.
Yeah, there was no food, there was no shelter, but we had all kinds of beer.
Yeah, and I remember we were sat around the campfire, looking at the can, a bit like this, reading the can, thinking, just to pass the time. And we thought it was really cool how the brewery, it was New Belgium Brewing Company's Fat Tire.
Yeah.
And we thought it was how cool that they use local ingredients and renewable energy. And we joked around that it would be fun to start a brewery on the Ottawa River where we worked and lived. And it just became this big sort of joke, but in the back of my mind, certainly, I was like, well, You know, I want to
I'm
start
thinking about
something. I
that.
could
Yeah,
do
yeah.
that. You know, and it got to the stage where it was just, you know, keep talking about it, and we're going to have to do it, or we stop talking about it because it's going to drive us crazy. So I think that we made the decision. I went and took a brewing certification to learn how to start a brewery, sort of create recipes, that sort of thing.
So up until this time, you had no brewing background whatsoever.
My only beer experience was
drinking
it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quite good at that, probably.
Yeah, I had tested a few different beers, but never even homebrewed. James had done some homebrewing. I don't think the other Chris had either, and they went and got some experience sort of visiting and working in some other breweries on a sort of volunteer basis, and I did that course, and then 2 years later, we opened up on raft guide salaries at what we now call Riverside.
And I remember that because you guys opened up in June of 2013.
Yeah.
And I remember that because that's the same month that I opened Go Hunt Birds.
Right.
So we opened our businesses at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And mine hasn't near grown to the
Well,
size of yours is, but
I think it does pretty well.
different demographic, different business model. But I'll always remember that because I remember going into your little brewery probably the first couple of weeks you were open.
Yeah.
And, you know, I'm going to support these guys. This is cool, especially locally, you know, so.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I think a big difference, though, with Go Hunt Birds, you have another job.
Oh, yeah,
Right.
exactly.
That's almost a side job.
Oh, it is a side business for me. Totally side business.
For me, when we started, this was it.
Yeah.
You know, we were...
Yeah, your side job was raft guide.
Yeah, exactly, to pay the bills.
Which a lot of other people would look at as a side job, like, you know, or a fun job. So, no, and it was interesting to see you guys get into business locally. And so walk me through that process. You started off, there was 3 of you.
Yeah.
You started off as business partners per se, and it grew from there.
Yeah, so we, you know, officially formed a partnership and filed business name registration and everything else, and pooled whatever money we had. I think we started with about $35,000.
Yeah.
And that could buy us the small brewing system that's still down at Riverside and still holding it together. And we made a lease agreement with Joe Kowalski from Wilderness Tours. He was really kind to help us out. I mean, giving us, especially our first year, giving us a rate that, you know,
Pretty reasonable, yeah.
I mean, we were living in the house and renting the barn and everything else, and we couldn't have done it without that for sure. So that was huge. And then it just came down to hard work. We did whatever we needed to do to make it work, and luckily in the brewing industry, especially when you're starting out, it's about pounding the pavement for sales. It's putting the hours in brewing and
The marketing.
Yeah.
The marketing end of it, like.
Yeah, exactly. So we did everything ourselves, just the 3 of us, and
And I remember when you guys started the craft brewery, you know, scene, I guess you'd call it, wasn't as big as it is now.
No, the way I sort of measure it is just based on, I call it the Ottawa region.
Yeah.
So you've got Ottawa, and then I include out to us.
Yeah.
And then as far as Bose, the other side, so at Vankleek Hill.
Yeah.
So I think we were number 5 or 6
Of
the time.
craft breweries.
Of craft breweries at the time.
And
So
how many are there now?
Now in that same region, I think there's either just under or just over 40
Wow.
in the same area.
Cool.
So that's all happened within 5 years.
So you're a bit of a pioneer then, really, you guys, in that little area.
Yeah, and I certainly think in this area, you know, we were number 1 in the valley, and we like to think we've made our mark there. But you know, we don't claim to have invented the wheel or reinvented the wheel or anything. You know,
No.
We took a good thing, making beer, and put our own twist on it.
So the next time we do one of those bus tours like we did, we're going to have a few more stops.
Yeah, that might be a multi-day trip.
Chris and I and a bunch of other people did a day-long brewery tour where we went from brewery to brewery to brewery. I think we hit 9 of them in a day.
It was
Starting at Whitewater and doing the valley tour and ending back at Whitewater for dinner. So
that was great. That was actually
a lot of fun, man.
For me, it was one of the most spontaneous days because I wasn't necessarily planning on coming.
Yeah.
And then you showed up, and there was space. And
3 on the bus or the
Jumped in.
camper, the RV. We took an RV, and away we went. So that was cool.
Yeah.
So you expanded then from the little brewery in Riverside.
Yeah. So we we knew that tiny little brewing system wasn't sustainable. That was never the long-term plan, because we brewed one keg at a time. It just didn't make any sense financially or effort-wise or anything. So the whole plan was to reinvest, keep growing, and go bigger when we could. And there were elements of naivety. I thought it would happen. Let me think. I thought it would happen quicker.
Yeah.
And I thought it would look the same as it does, but I didn't think it would require anywhere near as much money or work or employees or anything else.
Yeah, because you guys have a good bunch of people working for you now.
Yeah.
Both full-time and seasonal.
Yeah, full-time we're sort of just over 70, and seasonal included, we're over 100.
Yeah, that's crazy. And that's awesome for the Valley because there's 100 jobs.
Right.
That
Absolutely.
weren't there 5 years ago.
Yeah.
Part
of our big motivations when starting, or certainly mine, were to create something that people enjoy and that benefits others. So, creating labor in an area like this is great.
Yeah.
That's one of the big objectives for sure. But so we knew we had to keep reinvesting and growing. And one thing I'm actually really proud of, and a lot of people don't know this, and a lot of people think otherwise, is that we've never taken any outside investment. We haven't sold any of the business. It's still 100% owned by the three of us.
You're now incorporated, I assume.
We're incorporated. Yeah, absolutely. We moved from partnership to incorporated, but we still own 100%. And the way we did that was just reinvesting everything.
Yeah.
I mean, we were unpaid, all three of us, for 3 years.
Yeah. No, I remember you and I chatted about that, about how you just took nothing from the place.
Yeah. Yeah, we pay
Bit
for
of
every
food,
beer.
bit of beer, bit of gas money.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wear Whitewater brewery clothing,
Yeah, that's what my wardrobe consists of.
And a lot of people, they start to get a bit of success, and then it's buy nice things and shit they don't need, right?
Yeah.
So it's always dealing with you guys. It's always been humbling. You're still the same Chris that I met 6 years ago. That's no different than you are today, really. And
yeah, I don't think it's changed us or changed me at all, really.
Not from the outside looking in, anyway. So
yeah, we still, and not just me, but everyone at the brewery works hard. It's part of our culture, working hard, but enjoying it as we go. So.
Yeah. So the 3 years still owners, which is awesome.
Yep.
But obviously the footprint has expanded largely.
Yeah. So we essentially wrote a good business plan that made sense and took it to BDC, Business Development Bank of Canada. Yeah. And they bought in and loaned us the money to build our new place in Cobden. Yeah. So.
Tell me about that process, because a lot of people, I do a bit of business consulting, and a lot of people that are wanting to get into business, they haven't had the training. Like, going back a step, going to university for what you went to school for was probably a big help for when you're sitting down to write a business plan.
It actually was. I'm really happy that I'm one of my friends, and I'm one of a few of them that can actually say I use my degree, and I use it almost every day.
And so I didn't go to university for schooling, but I went to Algonquin College. I took business there. Right. It'd be a scaled down version probably of what you took, the college equivalent. And I'm the same. Like the stuff I learned there, 20 years later, still there. Yeah. And the business development end of things. And so I get a lot of people that want to start a business, but they have no business background, and they have no idea how to write a business plan. Yeah. So when you guys were writing your business plan for the expansion, like, do you have somebody help you do that, or did you do that on your own?
No, we did it on our own, and I wouldn't have been able to do it without without my education, without that experience at university. But no, did it on our own and followed some basic principles of, okay, this is how much we're going to need, this is what it's going to cost, and figuring out all the costs and then putting in the revenue. But it's more about backing up those numbers. You can make any numbers work on paper when you're making them up, but it's backing up how are you going to get that level of sales. What's going to happen to create that? How are you going to get from A to B? Yeah. And that's the main thing I think with a business plan is you need all that evidence, you need all the numbers in there, but it's how are you going to get from A to B? And that's what you need to convince the investor or the lender or whoever. That's what you need to convince them. How are you going to do it?
So I'm sitting with a guy now trying to help him with his business plan, and he's had 2 years in business. He's looking to expand for year 3. And I said, well, let's sit down and look at your numbers. He's looking at me like, what are you talking about? I said, well, you must have some sort of a dialogue here of how you did for the last 2 years and what's going on and where is money in and money out. And he's just looking at me blankly like, I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Right.
And so we had to sit down and sift through the numbers and, what's your good day in sales and your bad day in sales and, what's your cost of goods and all these things that, so I can imagine let's just keep the restaurant end of things for you aside, like just the brewing end of the deal. What's the cost for all those, the big machines and the cost of goods for grains and water and everything.
Oh, absolutely. It's everything that you need to make the beer, and then everything you need to run the business as a whole. And what we've found is, and looking back, it's obvious. But as you grow, there's a lot more of everything. It's a lot easier when you're smaller.
Add an extra 0 on some of those numbers type of deal.
Absolutely. And the workload that comes into it, and then new laws, new regulations are applied to you as you grow.
Because you're bigger now.
A big one that got us last year is employee health tax when you have a payroll over however much.
Or fire safety for a building probably was something.
Lots of Ministry of Labor stuff. All sorts of things.
Like I know a buddy of mine, we had a restaurant, and then when he expanded the restaurant to twice the capacity, the basement had to have a different fire rating.
Right.
So he had to go along and put all new drywall, go from this size of drywall to this size of drywall to make it fire code friendly. Just because of
based on the number of people you
have. And huge cost to do that if you're not planning it into your business plan.
Absolutely. So, there's always things that catch you off guard and that are unexpected. But I feel my job as sort of one of the owners is to try and catch those before they happen. And you'll never get them all, but you need to get some.
I remember you told me about the turning lane into your new place. Like probably unforeseen. That's something you wouldn't think of.
No, not in a million years. Building this place, it's got all of the approvals, and then you're a couple of months away from opening, and MTO say you need a turning lane before you can open. You can't get occupancy before you do this turning lane. It's like, how did we get this far through the process?
No one told us that.
Where we've got the loans, we're 90% complete on the build. And then there's, you need to build this $500,000 turning lane.
And come up with the money to do it.
It's like, what? But so there's things like that you learn from. And if I'm ever building a building again, I know.
You'll know for next time.
Okay, let's reach out to MTO.
And so that's a good piece of advice. Like, especially on a new build. I was talking to a buddy of mine. We've been talking about potentially building a lodge, hunting lodge for Go Hunt Birds, and to do our camps with. And so I reached out to a guy that I hunt with who's an architect. And I said, if this is something we may do, you'll be the guy that I want to help me do this. And he's like, the first thing we'll have to look is fire code. He's like, a lot of these lodges, they don't consider that.
Right.
And I'm like, I never even thought of that. You know what I mean? So.
It's there's a lot of things, and quite often as a small business, you try and do it without the expertise, and there's from learning it the hard way and from just seeing it work in a good way. There's some things you can figure it out yourself, and there's some things you need the expertise.
Cool. So you before we sat down, you mentioned that as it gets closer to Christmas, everything's busy, and you're kind of late, sitting back a little bit now. As what everything you've done has.
So for me, the business as a whole, December's either our second or third busiest month of the year. So it's a really busy month, especially as it comes out of nowhere. It's quiet October, November, and then boom, December. So it's busy in all areas of the business except sort of my side, which is planning for the future and doing sort of some of the higher level accounting and things like that. where at this point our year end is December 31st for the business as well, and it's now just see how December goes. And a lot of those future projects and things like that, nobody really is around or available to work on them, or they're certainly not working very quickly at this time. I'm talking, and nothing wrong with it, but government agencies, architects.
Yeah, they're all going to be closed for the next 2
They're all
weeks.
closed or slowed down, and so it gives me a chance to have a break as well. I keep working. I work through the whole thing, but none of it's time critical. I have a little bit longer to do all the regular stuff. So.
Well, I mean, you could probably use some of that time as you're at the brewery to enjoy seeing some of your regular customers that come in, sit and have a beer with them or something.
Absolutely, and staff too. Right?
Staff, yeah.
We have shifts that start as early as 5 a.m. and finish at midnight, and you can always have a drink with people after work and things like that. So it's good to do.
Cool. The lakeside is open all year round. The riverside portion is now closed?
Yeah, correct. Yeah, so the pub down there and retail closes after the summer.
Yeah.
But we keep brewing there year round. A big one of the busiest times from a brewing perspective is actually brewing the 12 beers of Christmas.
That's where they're brewed, at the old place.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They're brewed there, and then we can them in Cobden at Lakeside.
Cool.
So yeah, this year's the first year we're canning them as well, which is really cool.
Yeah, I've been noticing the Facebook posts has been pretty cool.
Yeah, we moved to canning just because, this year we have this brand new high-tech canning line. Yeah. And in terms of quality and consistency, it's on a much higher level than our small bottling system. So, any way we can improve quality and consistency, we're going to take it. It also meant we could lower the selling price of the 12-pack, so it benefits the customer in a few ways.
Yeah. Tell me about the branding and the things, because those who remember, everything was growlers originally.
Yep.
Big ones, little ones. And then you went to cans. Now you're saying everything's going to kind of go can. You still do growlers, or will you still?
Yeah, we still do growlers. Yeah. There's an avid following of people that come in, and if we don't have something in growler, they won't even buy the same beer in cans. They're like, nope, I'll get something else in a growler.
Yeah.
So there's still that solid following of people for that, and I mean, I understand it. It's great. It's more like drinking draft beer from a bottle. Yeah. Whereas canned beer, it's almost identical, but it is slightly different.
Yeah. Because it's somewhat carbonated added?
No, it's the same beer before the canning process. I don't know. I actually don't know. If you ask our brewmaster, Sean, he'll tell you that it's identical. And it
probably is, yeah.
It's probably just a sensation or something like that. But no, the beer's identical before it goes in, whether a growler or a can. And but it is a different experience drinking from a can.
Getting your branding into, I know you and I chatted about this before, the LCBO. Yeah. Tell me kind of about that process, like to go from Valley to Ontario to you're now where's the furthest away I can buy your beer from?
So you can buy our beer currently in British Columbia. Yeah. That would be the furthest. And Manitoba. Hopefully in early next year we'll be in Saskatchewan.
Awesome.
So just checking them off one by one.
So you're kind of going try Canada wide. Will you eventually go outside of Canada? Is that the plan, long term, hopefully?
Well, I mean, that's a big question. For me, it's about taking the business as far as we can. Yeah. Without overextending ourselves or that sort of thing. So. Yeah, my aspirations are to take it as far as I can, in which case that would include outside of Canada.
The world, the moon, Mars,
exactly.
Yeah.
If we're selling on Mars, I'll be happy.
You'll be happy.
Yeah.
Elon will be happy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. But I mean, we've obviously we started and almost 100% of our sales were Valley-based very early on, and we couldn't have done it without the support from the Valley. Word of mouth and people really buckling down and supporting us when, when beer early on, wasn't necessarily the most consistent or anything else, because we're figuring out as well. And
Well, not only that. I mean, we're in an area right here in Pembroke where it's a buck of beer for Coors Light, Bud Light,
yeah,
across the river, right?
yeah, you're right.
And I remember when you guys first came out, that was kind of the deal. Like, why would I go buy one of those growlers when I can get 24 cans for $24 at the Bose? And,
Yeah, for sure.
And I think the craft beer lifestyle, I guess you'd call it, has kind of educated people on different types of beer.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we don't and won't ever try to compete on price. That doesn't give us a free license just to put the prices up to whatever we want.
Yeah.
It has to make sense for the business, and it has to make sense for the customer.
Yeah.
But it's not about buying cheap beer.
Yeah.
What you get with craft beer generally, on the most part, is beer that's as high a quality as you can get, using natural ingredients. There's no high fructose corn syrup in our beers or anything like that, and we prioritize using local ingredients too. So one thing we actually don't do a good enough job of is shouting about the locality of some of our ingredients. I see lots of breweries make a really big deal when they use some local hops for one of their brews, and they put it all on social media and everything else.
Yeah.
Every single batch of beer we make uses hops from Alamet Island, right? From the Allards,
from
there.
Charles Allure,
Yeah, Charles and
I forget how to Lupinier.
Lupuline. Yeah, Lupuline.
Which I have an affinity with because I hunt on one of his properties.
Oh, cool.
So I know those folks, and so again, like everything's full circle, local. Right?
Absolutely, and what's been really cool is both of our companies have grown.
I've noticed
sort of symbiotically. I don't quote me on these numbers, but I think they started with either half an acre or 1 acre of growing land.
Yeah.
And
I think 10 now?
I think now they're 10 or 12, and they want to add more.
Their hop yard has extremely grown, like huge.
And I don't know what percentage of their hops we buy, but 98% of our hops are from them.
Yeah.
It's just if we want something specialty for a seasonal batch or something, that we get something different.
And that's awesome. So again, not only is Whitewater Brewery creating jobs for yourselves, but I know their hop yard has grown from, husband, wife, and a couple of helpers to some employees, and
Charles and his sister Millet, and then Lynn as well. I mean, we just had them at a staff Christmas party.
And why not? Because they're part of the family, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's awesome. Yeah. And so, so touching on that, to get your beer from, in the hands of people in the Ottawa Valley to British Columbia, what's that process been like?
Yeah, so Canada is it's pretty heavily regulated in the beer industry.
I can imagine.
So let's focus on Ontario first, because every province is different. But you have the AGCO, who sort of does some of the overarching licensing, but then you have the LCBO, who does most of the licensing regarding selling. And to be able to sell at LCBO, grocery, or the beer store, they have to put you through like quality control testing and everything else, which is perfectly reasonable.
Yeah.
The beer store, it's sort of pay to play. You pay X amount per brand, per store, to be listed there, as long as you pass the QC test, which is fine. That's just an expensive route because it adds up pretty quickly.
Yeah.
And then grocery, that's sort of, again, as long as you pass the QC, that's sort of as open a market as it gets in Ontario.
Yeah.
You go and you pitch to either the grocery store manager for that one store or the head offices for a bigger program.
Because you're in No Frills now.
Yeah.
Walmart.
Yeah. We're in
the Walmart here.
So we're actually in. We got on at the Sobeys, Loblaws, and Walmart and Metro head office level. So we're on planograms for all of those stores. So we're actually in every Loblaws store in Ontario with a license, every Sobeys with a license, with multiple brands. So that's really good. And for the grocery stores, it consists of going to their head office, meeting the right person, and pitching to them, like you would expect most product sales to go.
Yeah, and, I mean, the product's a product.
Yeah,
Beer, coffee, whatever, bottled water, whatever.
exactly.
Clothes.
It's same process.
Yeah.
The LCBO's a big. That's the different one. That's where they select what is able to be on their shelves. So the process with that is they have a different application windows throughout the year, and we send in the application, whether it's for a seasonal brand or a permanent brand, and then we wait to hear back. So they'll get an application with 3 of our beers, and they'll select 1 or 2, maybe, to go to the next stage, if they like the sound of them. The next stage is a product sampling. So they want to get a can or a bottle of the beer to test it, taste it, everything else. And if they still like it, they send it to a final quality control test again, sort of. And then
it doesn't just happen overnight. Then
no, and that process for a permanent brand can take up to 6 months, kind of thing. But they can just say no if they want, and then you cannot sell any of your beers at the LCBO. Once you get a yes, you're now able to sell it to the LCBO, but there's no automatic listings. You then have to go to every store and sell to that individual manager who can choose to take it or not.
Really, eh?
Yeah. So you get the head office approval finally, but you still have to actually sell it to every single store. They don't just take it automatically.
So that's not from top end down. You have to. So your sales guys are.
Yeah.
Has to go every store.
It's knocking on doors and pounding the pavement. Yeah.
It's kind of cool though. I mean, so sales used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. It's good. I like that in the beer industry. There's still a lot of that, and it rewards those that work hard and are personable and good qualities.
So when you first started out with your beers, there was the 4 original ones. Now you've expanded the line. You have some seasonals. You have some 12 beers of Christmas that you do.
Yeah.
And you have some collaboration beers. I know a lot of people probably want to know how did we end up with a Doug Gilmour beer? So, because I'm a huge Leafs fan. Doug Gilmour was my favorite hockey player.
Yeah, awesome. I mean, it really comes back to rafting.
Yeah.
Doug and some of his team had been whitewater rafting and were aware of us. And he'd already worked on some projects with his Gilmour wine and that brand, and wanted to do a beer, and they reached out to us through that.
That's awesome.
And I think I could be wrong, because Chris, the other Chris, actually took the lead on this project.
Yeah.
But I think Jeff Collins, Bubba, made the link somehow. But they wanted to do that, and came, and we had a good chat with them and talked about what they wanted to do, what we're doing, and they were on board with how we wanted to do it, and committed to it.
Cool. So in a collaboration like that is huge for you guys, right?
Yeah, for sure. It's good for the business, but it's also just fun, and you need those fun things as well throughout business life.
So if, to give people, because again, the purpose of this podcast is to help other entrepreneurs. How would you suggest doing collaborations like that? Different collaborations, because you do a lot of that stuff, right? Like obviously you're collaborated into the rafting circles and now the hockey circles, and you have a beer that donates portions back to the Legion.
I think for us, the way it's worked really successfully is we've stuck true to our own values. We're not compromising what we do just to please the other person, just to get the deal. But also you have to be flexible and listen to what they want and give them some freedom to contribute to the project. So
because it's them putting their name on it, right?
Exactly. Yeah. So with Doug's beer, we were never going to compromise on quality or price. We weren't going to cheapen out on quality so that we could reduce the price and be flooding the market with this cheap beer, for example. Not that that's what he wanted, but We would never do something like that. But what we did was brew a variety of styles and let him sample and pick which ones he liked, and then worked with him to narrow it down. And so he was really involved in the development of the product itself, and that goes through design and everything else as well. It was really collaborative. With the Royal Canadian Legion, I know that a couple of other breweries didn't get the partnership because they just wanted to rebrand a beer they already made, and put a Legion logo on it. And we were very opposite to that. We wanted to come in and make a beer just for them, that was unique to them, that was the style they wanted. And so as long as it sort of stuck with our values and priorities, work with the other people to create something together. Not
cool. Speaking of varieties of beer, have you kept track of how many there have been?
I could figure it out, but I don't know off the top of my head. But I mean, styles of beer that we've ever brewed, we must be over 40 or 50.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I know like your 12 beers of Christmas ones. There's some cool ones in there, and I see you have a chocolate peanut butter one now.
Yeah. So the 12 beers of Christmas, each year we keep 6 from the previous year and add 6 more new ones.
Yeah.
So typically we're adding 6 new every year with that alone.
Yeah.
We just launched a peanut butter and chocolate stout.
Tell me about that.
And
who comes up with all these?
That was kind of collaborative as well, actually. Yeah. So we have a client in Ottawa, and the bar manager used to work at the Arrow and Loon. He now works and part owns Elgin Beer Project.
Okay.
And he's been bugging us for about 3 or 4 years to make a peanut butter stout. And we just didn't know how to do it. We had so much going on, we couldn't do it. And this year, he's still bugging us, and we thought, we'll give it a try. And Sean, our brewmaster, and myself sort of took the project on, and we just didn't know how to do it. You can't just scoop peanut butter and put it in stout, obviously. You get chunks, but we did try it. Yeah. It didn't work. Yeah. We tried a peanut butter powder and all these things. And it was actually one of the beers that took the most recipe development. But we found a company that make an extract that's 100% peanut, and it does dissolve into the beer well, whereas some of them are too oily.
Yeah.
And then we just started balancing the flavors, and it's based off our Midnight Stout, but we increased the lactose element to make it a bit more silky smooth and take that milkshake element on. And then, so we were selling it to Elgin Beer Project in kegs.
Okay.
And we're looking at what we're going to put in a LCBO winter beer seasonal application. And we had 2 already, and we didn't know what the 3rd was going to be. And we thought, let's try the peanut butter. We'd only just started selling it in kegs. And that's the one that they followed through. And we launched almost 2 weeks ago now in LCBOs. And, a week and a half ago, and I think we launched in about 150 stores. And now we're adding them on. But
and again, to think to the volume of that, like you went from, I could just see you and your brewmaster at the old place down there just pouring stuff into the cauldron almost.
Yeah.
And here it is now in 150 stores.
Yeah, I mean, we used to brew 50 liters at a time.
Yeah.
5 times a day, so 250 liters a day. We're now brewing 7,000 liters a day. So big increase in volume.
Man, it's massive, which is awesome. It's great to see a business go. Because I always remember going back to like the first summer that you guys were doing this. You know, there was like spent grain out the back door, and somebody always had to be kind of watching what was going on while you're, and
it was. There
was no restaurant yet.
No, and not really enough staff to keep it going, but between the 3 of us.
I remember you had the old, I don't know if it's still there, but the old freezer with the kegs inside of it.
Yeah, that's still there. So, that's a tried and tested method. It's never gonna.
And I mean, now you have this huge big facility and 100 people working with you.
Yeah, it doesn't feel huge anymore though. We've filled it up pretty quickly, and we're looking to potentially expand out the back of it and need some more storage space.
Which is great.
No, it's good. Good problem to have.
So you used the advice and help of professionals. So again, starting back in your little shop probably wasn't much needed, but now you're a bigger deal. You mentioned asking for grant money or not grant, but business loans and stuff like.
Yeah.
See, how would people want to go about doing that? Because I think a lot of people, I find anyway, with social media and all this stuff, it makes it real easy to just think this stuff just happens.
Right.
Yeah.
No, for sure. You're right. When we started out, we were sort of doing it all independently. We opened a bank account with no line of credit or anything, no credit card, and that was it. And that's a really good way to start because it gets you managing your cash and it gets you in the habit of that really well. But yeah, at some point, if you want to continue growing, you need more. And the first thing is it takes a lot longer than you think. So start up the relationships with various banks. Start talking about what you want to do ahead of time, not when you need the money, but when you have the idea. I think we were working with BDC for 12 to 18 months.
Which, for those who don't know, is Business Development Canada.
Yeah, Business Development Bank of Canada.
Yeah.
And I think I was talking with them 12 to 18 months before we even applied for any money with them.
Yeah.
Just so they could, because then they can monitor your growth.
Well, they can
see
grow,
what's
right?
happening.
Yeah.
I doubt many people respond well to, here's my application, nice to meet you, I'm Chris, and
here's your check. Here you go.
Can we have some money, please?
Yeah. How much would you like?
Yeah, exactly. It's not quite like that. So it's a long game, and be prepared to play it. And then on the grant level and everything else, it's very similar. We've worked with Community Futures here in Pembroke, and some of the other organizations, and the applications and the timing of them and everything else are very specific, and they take a long time, and it's a long process. And the more you can familiarize the people that work there with what you're doing, the more they can understand it and buy in and see that it's going to be successful.
Yeah, and I think having a track record now would make it a little easier for you. To go about the next.
I hope so.
Because I would even just foresee things, like oh, yeah, you're selling alcohol. Oh, you're selling stuff that people are eating or drinking.
Yeah.
There's liability there. There's
well, rewind 5 years, 5.5 years, or maybe even 6 years now, and we're trying to get approvals to open Riverside Brewery.
Yeah.
And you've got 3 raft guides with no experience in the brewing industry, wanting to open a brewery to create alcohol, which is a controlled substance, and sell it. And the reaction from township and more the local authorities was they were pretty taken aback. And in hindsight, because we had our CRA approval, AGCO approval, LCBO approval, and what held us up was the local approvals.
Yeah.
In hindsight, we would have approached them early on to let them know what we're working towards and everything else. But because that process with them should have only taken a couple of weeks or a couple of months, we waited till we needed to do it.
Yeah.
But in hindsight, we would have started those relationships and let them know and
so a piece of advice that
into it.
Reiterated a couple of times now is to kind of let people know what you're working towards.
Yeah.
Before you're even working towards it, even.
Yeah, and you don't need to give away any secrets by doing that. But,
you say that though. I mean, the secrets are this. Like you could tell. I feel you could kind of tell everybody your secrets. Mm-hmm. Most people aren't going to do anything. Oh yeah, that's a great idea. You think 100 other people are going to go start another brewery to compete against you?
You remember when we started at Riverside Brewery?
Yeah.
Our recipes were written on the wall.
Yeah. And people could have come in and
started brewing midnight stout.
How many have?
Yeah,
you know
exactly 0.
Yeah. And that's what I think a lot of people always forget. Oh, I can't tell any secrets because someone's going to steal my idea. Which kind of is going to lead into my next question. It's what drives you to do this, because a lot of people think they have the next best business idea, but they don't want to do anything about it. Mm-hmm. So what has got the three of you guys, from this trip where you're drinking beer to this?
I mean, I think initially we all wanted to create something that people enjoy.
Yeah.
And, I didn't want to start a business that's creating airplane windows. I don't know why I thought of airplane windows, but something you would never think of the manufacturer who makes airplane windows. But someone does that.
Yeah.
But I wouldn't get the fulfillment from creating that product that I do from creating beer that people get to enjoy.
So you get to do something that you love.
Yeah.
And help share that.
Exactly.
Yeah. And that's the premise behind my Go Hunt Birds business is the same. Like, I share bird hunting with people.
Well, and you can be passionate about it. And when things aren't going well, it's what helps get you through that tough time. And when things are going well, you love it even more.
So you're suggesting that if you're going to get into business, to do something that you love?
I would. You're going to have to do it every day for potentially the rest of your life. Yeah. So in my mind, it may as well be something you like doing.
And I think a lot of aspiring entrepreneurs, I shouldn't say a lot because I could be wrong, but I think people get into business thinking, how much money am I going to make? I'm going to make all this kind of money, and then they get into it and they hate it,
right?
Because maybe they are making a lot of money, but it isn't as fun as they thought it would be, now you're kind of stuck in that rat race or pigeonholed where you can't go do something else. And
I was very lucky because I wasn't married. I didn't have any kids. Still don't, but didn't have any kids. Didn't really have any commitments. Didn't have a house. No commitments when we were starting the brewery. So to save money, I lived in my van for a year.
Yeah.
That's the means to the ends. I can save money that way.
But you would,
But I was very lucky that I was able to do that. But that's the kind of thing it can take.
And you probably didn't even mind it.
Well, no.
The raft lifestyle, that's common.
Yeah, absolutely.
So when you go to do that, you would just think nothing of it.
Yeah, that's fine.
And I don't think a lot of business owners want to. We'll call that suffering. Again, I don't think you probably mind. It was probably fun.
Yeah.
But they don't want to suffer. They want everything really big, really fast.
Yeah.
And it's kind of neat to see your story, how you went from one little pot of beer to where it's at now.
And you're right, because we were unpaid for 3 years. Not a penny, and like you said, we still paid for everything. And there's plenty of different business models, and some you'll be able to pay yourself from day one, and that's great. But they're not all like that, and sometimes it takes a little bit of extra commitment, I suppose. But or it did for us anyway. We wouldn't have been able to do it if we were taking a salary straight away. That's for sure.
Your day-to-day operations now, your two partners, are they still on board all the time?
So they're both shareholders still.
Yeah.
James stepped away after about 12 to 18 months. Essentially, small business life was just not for him.
Yeah.
But we're still really great friends. He still has shares in the business and still helps out when necessary. We had a mini crisis a couple of weeks ago, and
there he was.
He was there immediately helping out.
Which is what you want. That's
absolutely
still his baby, kind of.
Exactly. He's still a fundamental part of it. We wouldn't have been here without him.
Yeah.
And the other Chris has taken some time away, and for personal stuff as well. And it'd be good to have him back, and hopefully he will be. But that's uncertain. But
still, the three of you are a unit.
Three of us are still the three
amigos, three musketeers.
Exactly, and but otherwise it's myself there day to day, and we have a pretty big team. We have a sort of management team. This is how we've structured it. It's myself, and then we have a management team who are sort of in charge of each department.
Yeah.
But we're extremely collaborative. All the decisions, like big decisions, involve multiple people from each department, even if it's really only specific to one.
Let me ask you about that. With your departments, obviously leadership down. Do you find your leadership style is what creates that whole? Like I've been to your place often enough. I know the three of you guys enough to know that everyone that works there kind of is like an extension of what you guys are.
Honestly, it's something I haven't thought about, but I mean, I almost hope so, because I try really hard to sort of guide people and coach people and get everybody making their own decisions, and it's really not an autonomy.
Like, I feel like everybody that works there loves it as much as you guys do.
I think a lot of them do.
You know, it's like a family, which is awesome, because a
sure.
lot of places that are like that, sometimes it's, you know, they look at it as a job, or, oh, I hate going to work, or...
It's funny, the other day somebody said something to me about not knowing names of our employees, and I was like, I know every single employee's name here.
all 100 of them.
Yeah, I didn't even think about it. I just, like, no, I know everybody here. It wasn't even something I had to think on, but yeah.
I'll ask you a question. If you don't want to talk about this, fine, but you had a employee who passed away a while ago. How was that on the family of business? Like,
yeah, that was a
huge loss, right?
Huge shock, a huge loss. Like, he wasn't just a guy that worked in the kitchen. He was, you know, best friends with some of the guys in the kitchen, good friends to everybody else at the brewery. Everyone knew him. Yeah. So it was a huge shock, and everyone felt, you know, heart-wrenched and just taken off their feet, for sure.
I'm assuming it makes your business stronger, though, as a whole.
Well, I was really impressed, and I actually mentioned this at a Christmas staff party. I was so blown away at how everybody came together to help out Adama's family, but also each other at the brewery. And you know, I thank them, because we wouldn't have been able to get through it as easily as we did. Not that it was easy, but it was, you know, we were shut for best part of a week. We gave everybody the time they needed,
Which is great to see. From like obviously that would be a loss of sales, a loss of whatever.
For sure.
I mean, who cares, right?
Yeah,
you know, it's not as
important in the
exactly.
big picture. Right?
You know, I know we had a number of years ago. We had our secretary, her son had committed suicide, and it was a huge shock, because we had kind of been listening to her talk about the process of, she's really worried about her son, you know, blah blah blah, and you know, and it was an eye opener of, you know, again, we're a small community business, and
for sure,
I think that there was 10 or 12 of us that worked there at the time.
One thing I will say is the Robbie Dean Center were really great.
That was who was. So Robbie Dean, his mother Monique was our secretary.
Okay.
And he passed. You know, that's all evolved from that.
Cool. Right. Gotcha. Well, it's a great organization now. They came out and spoke to our company as a whole, and some of the people individually as well, and they're still in communications with us over it, and they're really great to have around.
So what would some advice to somebody getting into business, not necessarily the beer business, but any business, if you're, you know, and you can maybe touch back even to your schooling, you know, what would you suggest people to go do?
Yeah, there's a few things. I mean, I think first of all, working hard, it sounds obvious, but sometimes you just, I mean, we call it GSD, get shit done. Yeah. Sometimes you just got to get shit done. Yeah. And doesn't matter how late it goes or what you got to do, you just have to get it done. And so, you know, we have GSD lists at work and things like that. But
it's funny.
But yeah, it's sometimes you just need to go that extra mile. If you really believe in it, if you're really behind it, put that effort in, and it will pay off. Maybe not the next day or the next week, but most of the time, I think it will come around. I think for any business, just basic financial knowledge is really important. Basic accounting, some basic accounting terms. You know, you were talking about sort of tracking sales and things like that.
Or cash flow. Like, a lot of people don't know where cash flow goes.
Yeah, and you really need to know that information to be able to grow.
I find it too, a lot of, with cash flow, I find a lot of sole proprietors, they can't distinguish cash flow from business. Let's say they're a business, you know, they can't distinguish, like, we've had a really good day in sales, so let's take that now and then buy something for myself.
Right.
You know?
Yeah. Cash flow, I mean, it's a bit of a cliche in small business or any business schooling, but cash is king. Cash is the most important.
It's your oxygen for your business. If you don't have cash flow, you're out of business.
You can be really profitable and have no cash in the business. And the bigger you get, the more important it becomes. So, for us, obviously we're a manufacturer, it's not about being profitable and getting good sales, but can I buy ingredients to make the next batch of beer? Or to make batches of beer in 3 months' time.
Can I buy it in, I'm sure you're looking probably, you do is you buy it, what can we buy in bulk and storage?
Yeah, absolutely.
Versus what needs to be fresh,
Yeah, absolutely.
Time of year,
Yeah, can I bring the cost down on this by buying twice as much?
Yeah.
But can I afford to buy twice as much and store it?
Yeah.
And
will that product
cash
expire?
flows, cash flow is really important.
Yeah.
We have a 5-year business plan that's just ongoing. I'm updating it every month kind of thing, tweaking it, and then I do a big update on it once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And that monitors things like cash flow as well as profitability. But, you don't always have profitable years either. We've had years we've made a loss as a business, but that doesn't mean your business closes. It could do. But it can mean that your cash flow is still good and the next year is going to make up for it kind of thing.
Yeah, I see that in the investment end of things, like, on a year-to-date basis, the investments might be down.
Right.
But you've been a client of mine for 8 years. Well, that's just a little snapshot of the 8 years we've been working together. Your investments are still largely ahead.
Right, absolutely.
But we just had a really bad 6 months.
Bad month, bad quarter, whatever it is.
And people panic, right? In business.
And this year was really tough on us. This has probably been our most tough year in business, not just with the Adama loss, which was huge, but we had a fire in February.
Correct, yeah.
And the damage wasn't significant. It was a 10 by 10 sort of section of the ceiling and attic that was damaged.
Yeah.
But we were down on production for 2 months.
Yeah.
So, we lost sales for the 2 days we were closed.
Restaurant sale.
Restaurant and retail sales. That's manageable.
Yeah.
And then we're still good for the next couple of months because we have all this inventory. And inventory is going down, but our plan was to build inventory up before the summer. And then we get to summer, and our inventory is pretty much at zero across all brands. I think at one stage we had 2 brands in the fridge at the brewery. And we've only just started being able to brew again.
So now you got to backpedal.
And you're starting out the busiest months of the year with zero inventory, and we just weren't able to keep up. So beer was coming off the line and going out the door, but you can't always make those deliveries. We probably shorted LCBOs and grocery stores by 50% for a few months of the year of the summer. And it was this huge impact on cash flow.
In a time where generally you're selling the most beer, I would assume.
Yeah, absolutely. Or
patio
should
season.
be anyway.
Yeah.
But you've still got the building to pay for, the insurance and everything else, but our sales are down on what they should have been.
Yeah.
And that was really tough. And, I kept really good track of what we were losing in sales and everything else. And luckily, we have insurance that covers loss of sales or business interruption from this. And we finally got recouped for it just a few days ago. But that put a huge strain on the business for the whole year. And managing cash flow then became really tight. And
especially when you're paying wages to 100 employees and
absolutely.
heat and hydro and
and payroll taxes and everything else that catches you off guard, especially when you're small, you don't think of those things. And we call suppliers and just say, look, this is the situation. Can you extend our terms? Can you be lenient with us? And most of the time, if people understand and they know you have a claim coming or something, then they're willing to work with you. So we were just very open about it, all cards on the table. Like, can you help us out?
Your business interruptions insurance.
Sorry, what?
Business
Explain it.
Explain how that works, and explain who told you that would be a good idea to buy that.
Yeah, so business interruption insurance, I mean, you obviously know a lot about it.
I know of it. I didn't sell it to you,
No.
but I don't actually sell it. I don't sell commercial insurance.
Right.
I only insure people, not stuff. So,
But it's a cool product. I would definitely recommend it, having benefited from it significantly this year.
Because farmers buy it often.
Yeah.
Crop insurance.
And basically it's for, reasons out of your control. Accidents in the workplace, or things like a fire or flooding, anything that really interrupts your business. Yes, your insurance will pay for the damage of the fire, but what it actually covered as well was any increased costs due to the fire, and any loss of sales. So, increased costs. We had to outsource as much production as possible to try and get caught up. That obviously comes at a much higher price than if we had brewed it internally ourselves. So the insurance actually covered the difference, as long as you can prove it to them that it exists. So they covered the difference, and they covered anything that we could prove, sales orders that we couldn't fulfill.
Which you had proof of.
For a lot of it,
Yeah.
a lot of it we didn't have proof of, because how can you, when a client knows you haven't had stock for the last 3 weeks, they're not going to call again and ask. And so,
But how huge was that for you to have that? Because first of all, you don't foresee having a fire.
Well, for us this year, our insurance claim was $350,000. So that's cash we managed without. And we just managed to hang on. And then now we've got it back, and we've paid back all those suppliers. We don't pocket that money. But it comes into the business, pay back those suppliers. They're happy now, we're happy. But yeah, I mean, essentially it was part of our main insurance. We insure the business through BrokerLink. And when they were selling us, they said, if you have a fire or a flood or anything like that, what happens? Can you continue, or is it an issue? And, well, obviously it's a big issue if we can't brew. So, can you protect against that? Yes.
That's cool. That's whoever sold you that. It obviously knows their industry.
Yeah.
So because like I mentioned, I know a lot of farmers that buy crop insurance. Bugs or animals or weather that can damage a crop, and they're you sow $100,000 of seed into the ground and it doesn't grow the way it's supposed to. It's a lot of money out the door.
And it even covers things like mechanical breakdown. If your machine breaks down and that causes business interruption, then it can be a claim as well.
Cool. Before we start to wrap this up, I often ask people to mentor. Who's been a mentor for your business that you'd maybe even like to see me have on this podcast?
For sure. I don't think there's been one person. I know some entrepreneurs do, but I don't have this one person that's really mentored. I've confided in. Joe Kowalski at Wilderness Tours, certainly in the early, like the planning stages and year one was great just to talk with. And
I think he'd be a cool guy to have on from a start something from nothing.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, him and I don't always see eye to eye. Him and other people don't always see eye to eye. But there's a huge amount of respect for what he's been able to do, and
for those who don't know, Joel Kowalski was the guy who started Wilderness Tours.
Yeah,
he kind of pioneered the whitewater rafting.
Yeah, and
area here.
I think he just turned 70 this year, and he's still trying to grow the area and start all these new projects, and it's really cool to see. And I hope I'm doing that when I'm 70.
Cool, yeah.
So there's a lot of inspiration there. I work very closely with. I mean, just quickly, the rafting community is crazy. It's filled with doctors and investment bankers and entrepreneurs and lawyers and teachers and all these really cool people that do all kinds of stuff. One of them started a promotions and marketing company, so she actually makes all of our
The lady that I met in Kingston with you guys?
Yeah. Sherry.
Yeah.
So she runs a company called Epic Promo.
Yeah.
And again, it's not so much that she's been a mentor. She's been doing it at the same time as us.
Yeah.
And her and I always chat, and we're often going through the same things. And she's done really well with her business, but had some pretty big challenges as well. And she would be good to have a chat with as well.
I remember when you launched the Gilmore beer, I was down for that in Kingston, and I had a really good chat with her.
Yeah.
You introduced me to her, and it was
she's
I can see that.
She's fun. She's intelligent. She knows what she's doing, and she'd be good to have a chat with as well.
Yeah, because it's as we get rolling with these, this is something that I plan to do more of, and it's nice to let people, like as we talked earlier, kind of let their secrets out of how we do this. How do you do this? Because from the other side of the coin, working with business owners that are only a year or two in.
Yeah.
There's so many unanswered questions. And I mean, you and I would too. You've been in business 6-7 years.
Yeah.
I've been in one business. Go Hunt Birds has been 6 years old, but I've been in business for 20 years, different businesses.
Yeah. Well, exactly. And I'm still learning every day. I do a lot of self-learning and listening to podcasts and reading and all sorts of things. But so I'm learning all the time. And I can only talk to our experiences, but it is good to talk about. And like I love talking to other business owners and hearing what they've gone through, and it gives you ideas. It really helps.
And I know in my financial planning practice, I tend to try to work with business owners because that's my that's what I love. And I can tell you the amount of business owners that I've sat down with, planned with, sold insurance to, and in a year or other they're out of business.
Yeah.
And hey, what's up? Like, why are you not paying your premiums anymore? What's going on? Oh, this happened. These unforeseen things that just put them out of business.
Yeah.
And it could be something as simple as, well, I just got married and we have a kid on the way, and I can't be in business anymore. I need to get a real job, or whatever. And a lot of the things that people don't think about when they're in business is what I hope to bring to the top here.
There's not many avenues to either find that information out or say for me to be able to talk about it either. So it's nice to talk about it. I mean, it's nice also to get questions that aren't your everyday sort of, how's it going?
What's
your
stuff,
favorite beer? Real questions about real stuff is I like talking about it.
Like the things like the insurance.
Yeah.
That's. If somebody would take away from this podcast that, if their industry relates to yours,
if in any way, anything like a fire or a machine breaking down or whatever could impact your sales, get business interruption insurance because you'll get a check at the end of it for what you could have sold, and for the added costs of,
You guys are going to buy that, right? From somebody.
Our air conditioning wasn't working and nothing was going. We couldn't even come in the building.
Yeah.
That would be nice.
Or I mean, heaven forbid, imagine there's a fire here. What's all this camera gear worth? So. Cool, man. How do people find you guys online?
I mean, we're on everything. Probably not these days. I'm losing touch with technology.
Do you manage your own social media stuff?
No, we have a marketing manager, Tristan, who came on about 18 months ago, and she's just incredible.
Cool.
Everyone can make a Facebook post, and
yes,
and that's fine, but she does it with great consistency, and I feel it's really upped our social media game. But then she does all of the analytics as well, and she's really smart. And in this day and age, I can't claim this concept myself, but I heard this on a podcast this week. If you say that you can't afford somebody to be focused on social media or digital marketing, then you have to rethink that, because that is the way the world has gone. It's not the way it's going. It's already happened, and that's where it is. And you need somebody specializing in building a digital strategy.
Yeah.
And
it's your marketing plan now.
Yes.
Like even homeless people have cell phones.
Yeah,
They're
yeah.
that, you know,
Yeah,
it's where it is. It's, you know, so you're on all the social platforms. Whitewater Brewing.
So yeah, our website is whitewaterbeer.ca.
Yeah.
And then we're on Twitter and Instagram, Whitewater Brewing Co.
Yeah.
Facebook, Whitewater Brewing Company. Yeah.
And can people follow you along personally? You're Chris Thompson?
Yeah, they can. Yeah. I'm out there, Christopher Thompson. Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
I think I follow you.
You won't get too many interesting things from me, but I do my best. Yeah.
Yeah.
But,
Cool. Last question. What does it mean to you to be an entrepreneur?
For me, it's just self-fulfillment. I love what I'm doing every day. I can see myself continuing to do this in 20 years, and at times it's been extremely challenging, and you feel like throwing in the towel and whatever, but you've got something at the end of it that you can be proud of, and that's what I love. But it's important to make time for, once you get to a certain stage, it's important to make time for yourself as well. So.
Yeah, and you're married now? You have a wife?
I'm married.
Yeah.
Got a wife.
Awesome.
We have a house. Playing basketball again. So
Yeah,
that's good.
Yeah, I remember a couple of years ago I met you and you were in a cast. Yeah. What are you doing?
Which year, I might ask? 'Cause
Yeah,
it's been
basketball.
ankle and knee. And
Yeah. No, you got to do stuff for yourself. I do a lot of hunting. I play some hockey.
It's how I burn my stress away.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah.
Me too. And people don't. I don't think a lot of people realize being self-employed that it doesn't shut off.
No.
Like you go home and it's still there. You go to sleep, you're still there.
Yeah, it's not a physical thing. It's not when you're at work, you're working. It's nonstop.
I'm assuming people have often said this. Oh, it must be nice to hang around and drink beer all the time.
Yeah.
Which it probably kind of is, but it's not the only thing that you do.
Oh no! I mean, I drink
often.
less beer now than I
Exactly.
did before the brewery. Maybe more often, little sips, but not.
Yeah.
It's certainly less often. It's actually funny. Somebody said to me yesterday. We were talking about this morning, and I said, "Oh, I've got a 9:30 meeting," and they're like, "Well, you work for yourself. You can you're not going to fire yourself." I'm like, "Yeah, but I can't be late. I have a meeting with someone else. And, it's not just free reign to do whatever you want."
And I think that the non-entrepreneur doesn't understand that.
No.
Like nobody's going to kick your ass but you.
Yeah. Exactly. And you need to do it sometimes.
All the time.
Yeah.
All the time. Yeah. So awesome, man. Well, thanks for doing this. This has been fun.
No, it's been good.
Thanks, guys, again for recording, and hopefully people get a little more insight on Whitewater beer.
There we go.
Awesome, man.
Excellent.
Thanks, Chris.
Cheers. Thanks, Matt. Appreciate it.